What is good? Tom and the Hobby Hideout got a crazy deck for you guys today. This is the Dragon Turbo Edison deck. Uh, just to start off, these 11 cards at the bottom here, they're not actually in the deck. These are like the questionable cards that could be played in either the main or the side. I'm going to go over one by one why I'm not playing these cards. But first, I'm going to run through the main deck real quick. The main deck is pretty much a standard main deck except for these 4 slots. And maybe an instant fusion, but I think instant fusion's mandatory too, especially in this deck because this is your normal summon. So you need to be able to still branch into Red Eyes after normaling this. But either way, you want this to OTK with Brio. So that leaves us with these 4 slots. I'm going to go through the rest of it just real quick like this so you guys can see these cards if you haven't seen them already. But what it comes down to is you can see I really maxed out on the Vortex Trooper. And I just think that Vortex Trooper does everything you want for the deck to do. It's everything you want your normal summon to be. It unbricks you. It's like a mulligan, as well as drawing you pretty much 3 cards. And it's a debris target, which makes crazy Black Rose plays. So I think this just gets you out of the early game, which is what the deck desperately needs, is to not brick and get out of the early game. And it's just pretty much GG's from there usually. The Red Eyes Wyvern, I'm running this over. Well, technically, if I were to cut the Wyvern, the only card I would actually put in would be Flamebow Guard because it's more of an engine card. You could argue that if you're already future fusioning, you should be winning either way, so you don't actually have to dump the Red Eyes Wyvern to be in an advantageous situation. However, you can see I'm not actually main decking Avarice, which is kind of crazy, but it's just not good early game at all. Which is similar to Wyvern, but Wyvern's a better discard off of Excavation, as well as being a dragon to send off Future Fusion, because you will run out of dragons. Without the Avarice, your Future Fusion, sometimes you actually won't even activate this because you have so little dragons in your deck, which sounds bad, but if you have little dragons in your deck that you can't activate Future Fusion, you're usually already winning. Like, that's the thing about this deck. And that's why we're not electing to play Avarice. Card Trooper, it's a cool tech idea, and I can see how you could mill a White Stone, and that would be really nice. I saw that Ghost Rider was playing it, and a lot of these techs you'll notice were Ghost Rider's deck. The reason we're not playing it is because Vortex Trooper does everything we want it to do. And Card Trooper doesn't like unbreak us in the same way. The only advantage of this would be it could out Thunder King, which is really nice. It's a super nice main deck out to Thunder King. But Thunder King normally has back row accompanying with it anyway, and just not the move for me. Raikou, it's an answer all to anything, but normally with these decks, you'll either need to side in back row hate or monster hate, which is why I really like this format, because you're never going to have to side in. You never normally have to prepare for Christia and Oppression. It's normally just like Oppression or Vanities or Christia. Like, you don't normally have to do both. So the versatility doesn't really matter. The only time the versatility would matter if it's like a main deck option because you could hit both decks. But when you're siding into this, it doesn't really make sense because you'll know which one you need to hit usually. The crossout, I can see how this is really good into Blackwing, like Vayu, Turbo, and even decks that play Raikou, but maybe like Zombies too would be really good. The reason I don't like it is because you don't want to take out your engine to do something that your engine could already do, and like Raikou is not really a problem for your engine. Like, Vortex Trooper is a really good way to deal with Raikou in a way. Like, you don't need you don't really need the cross out. Like, your deck just deals with Raikou's fine or hamsters. Same thing with this really. Like, your engine normally deals well enough into stuff like Caius and stuff like that. The only cards you'll notice that you're really siding in are cards that prevent you from playing the game. You want to stop the cards that are going to prevent you from playing your turn, like when you're killing them, or like prevent you from playing at all. And aside from the crows I'll explain later, but they do fall along that line. But that's why, like, cards that just slow you down or like tempo, like Caius isn't enough to stop you from playing completely. So you don't need to, like, your engine will deal with that fine. Flamevo Guard, I think this is a really cool choice, and I might swap it out with the Wyvern. But for now, because I'm not playing Avarice, like you want to have that extra grind game with the Red Eyes. So I do like the Wyvern in the main. Mind Control, cool tech, and you can even play the level 10 Synchro Dragon that you can synchro with the Debris Dragon into and take like a Caius. But not really my thing. Snipe Hunter, this card's super cool. I've never tested it yet, but this card looks super cool. Like you could just wipe a whole board and then rejuve and get your whole hand back. Like this card looks nuts. Um, yeah, Clear Vice. Never tested it actually, but into Blackwing, it's really good. Um, my side for Blackwing's already pretty much set up, so I don't really know what I would change. But yeah, Morphing Jar. I tried making Morphing Jar work. Sided it for going first. I wouldn't really main deck it because going second, like you don't want their Kai's to get value in the way that like you just went completely -1. So like I don't want to give them that Morphing Jar for them to Caius. But if you're going first, it's a good option. The thing is, a lot of times going first, you'll normal your Vortex first, and you'll draw into the Morphing Jar later, which is why it doesn't really work. And if you'd rather start with either Morphing Jar or Vortex, I normally choose the Vortex personally. And the Gores is really, really cool card. I wanted to play it. The problem is normally you either have a Future Fusion out, you have Recklesses set, or you have to set other cards like Instant Fusions, Excavations, maybe Trade-ins and stuff in order to not discard at your end phase. You're going to draw so many cards, you don't want to lose all those cards at end phase, so you'll just set them. And that is why you can't really play. I don't like Gores for that reason. I could see it coming back in though, because it can literally stall you like 4 turns. So I understand why Gores is played for sure. Then you have the Crows. Crows, this might sound crazy, but I'm afraid of the mirror match. I've never even played the mirror match, but it sounds terrible. It sounds really terrible. So Excavation for Rejuve, you can DD Crow it, which is still good, but it's not always. It doesn't always do the most. So like, it's also for like Miracle decks. Is great against value decks. Like this, I'd rather have than the. I think Crow is better to have than the Nobleman personally against value decks, just because it actually deals with the problem. Not even that value is necessarily a problem, but it's also good for like Future Fusion decks. Not Future Fusion, like Miracle decks, like Frogs and stuff. The one Quakimeru, this is kind of just like a placeholder. It's good for fairies though. It's good against a few other decks, but I mostly just sided in for fairies because you don't want to overside. Even though like you could side in against Blackwings and stuff like that, you don't want to overside, so you don't really want to throw this in. Prime Material. I don't summon this as much as I should, but it's hard to find room to side this in too because like you have to side out your engine for something that doesn't help your engine that much. But it's really good against Icarus attacks, um, hero beat decks like Gemini Sparks and stuff. So it is nice. Lightning Vortex and the one Soul Taker. You just want to have maximized outs to like Christia and Vanities because those will literally stop you from playing completely. Um, so I think 4 is a good number because you normally will just turbo yourself into these, and you don't want to brick on too many of them. You could even just like do 3, depending on which 3 you want to keep. That's up to you. My body card's nuts. I love deciding these 6. I'll just side out the 3 upstart, the 3 reckless, and side in these 6, and just cook Blackwings sometimes. Not all the times, but sometimes. And this card's just really nuts. I love this card. A lot of people will also oppression you when you do debris effect, and this just comes in huge. I don't know why they do it, but they normally don't do it again afterwards, but you'll catch them doing that. So this is technically an out to oppression sometimes. The MST, Giant Trunade, and these are all just outs to oppression. Decree is just so broken. It just shuts down an entire mechanic, and it's just like some decks really, really suffer to it. So you gotta throw it in the side. We have the Extra deck, everything's pretty standard. This, I think, is mandatory. It helps you unbrick yourself. If you have rejuves that are dead, you can just discard like a bunch of blue eyes and stuff. There was a game where I actually excavation, added back rejuve, discarded double legend, and then I ended up having to get DD Crowed, which really threw me off. But I made this, discarded the other blue eyes and another card, and I still drew 5 in end phase and managed to kill him next turn. So this card is actually huge. It comes up like it's only came up like 4 times, but it'll be really big when it does. Standard. I like Colossal. This is a flex spot probably. And then this is any 3 you want it to be. I don't know if the 3 necessarily matters. I haven't really looked into it deeply, but I don't think there's much else that you could put in that would matter. These are just dragons, so they're all the dragon ones. You play 2 of each, just in case. You never know what's going to happen with your instant fusions. This actually has a relevant effect, which is crazy. Negating flip effects actually comes up. I've actually done this where I've summoned this, attacked an Araiko, and just kind of chilled with it. And then the 5 head you have to play because 5 head. And yeah, this is pretty much the list. I want to do I wouldn't say this in depth, but I wanted to really go through it and explain my take on it. Pretty much the takeaway is Vortex Trooper is the way, I think. And obviously the side deck will always be changed. Not always, but it'll change based on how stuff changes. But this is where we're at right now. And any advice I'll definitely take in the comments. But other than that, Tom and the Hobby Hide out. Later, boys.